It has often been said, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Case in point, the projection technology at the Gym Theater in Kannapolis, North Carolina.
This theater opened on December 31st, 1936. Considering the age of it and how long we've been here, holds a lot of really good memories for folks in this town. In 75 years, we've had literally thousands of people that have had their first jobs here. So it's always fun to hear their memories and their stories. So it's a good experience all the way around.
As the lights are brought up, the stage and rows of seats reveal their splendor, as projection equipment ranging from the 1930s all the way up to the 21st century prepare to show a movie on a screen larger than life.
Most people don't realize that the movie actually comes to us on 5 to 8 individual reels. Then we take those reels and splice them together into one continuous piece of film that's loaded onto the platter.
What images come to mind when you think of a movie projector? Perhaps it's a type of box that has arms sticking out of it with reels of film on them. That would be logical, since a lot of promotional material for movie rentals and theaters usually picture something similar. While some smaller theaters have projection systems that run reel to reel, most theaters today use what is called a platter system. It enables the reels of a movie to be spliced together into one big roll, so it runs continuously throughout the show.
The discussion that I normally have when explaining that to people comes along with the explanation as to why we have 2 projectors. And even the people, guys that consider themselves accomplished projectionists that have never worked anywhere but a multiplex will come in here, and they don't even understand why we would have 2 projectors. So I have to explain to them how it worked before platters came along, that you showed reel number 1 on the first projector and reel number 2 on the second projector, and while you're rewinding reel number 1 while reel number 2 is running, and then threading up reel number 3. So the life of a projectionist was quite different during those days.
When the projectionist switches between reels, it's called a changeover. If you pay attention to the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you will occasionally see a black dot, followed by another one 10 feet later. The first dot tells the projectionist when to start the film rolling on the other projector. The second dot cues the projectionist to flip a changeover switch that instantaneously switches the picture and sound to the other machine. If timed right, no one ever knows anything happened, and the show goes on uninterrupted. With the introduction of automation in the 60s, projection booth technology began changing like it never had before. In the early 70s, the platter system was introduced. It allowed theaters to splice all reels of film together into one roll on a platter the size of a breakfast table. The system consists of 3 motorized platters mounted on a tripod-like structure. The film feeds from the center of the roll, then guided by rollers that feed it to the projector. Afterwards, the film is taken up on one of the other platters and is ready to thread from the center again without any rewinding.
I got to watch the evolution from, changeovers to platters, from mono first to multi-track, and then, surround, 6-track surround, I got to see all of that happen.
And you got to work with the original operators from the silent days.
Yeah, and that was what was cool.
In the mid-1970s, just south of Kannapolis, in the town of Charlotte, John Evans began running the projection booth at the old Carolina Theater, built back in 1927.
A lot of the projectionists that had come up through the old times, and back when I was first starting, they didn't like the idea of changes. They wanted to stay with the 20-minute reel. That takes away the art of making the changeover and presenting the show.
There's always somebody going to come up with a substitute or a replacement or something that the old fellow stays below there. That's all he ever did, work in the booth. Oh, hell with this stuff. I said, listen, you haven't got no choice anymore. I said, they're running this damn thing everywhere, and you gonna run it here, or they'll throw you out. I said, now, I got you, just make up your mind what you gonna do. Of course, they up the start and a few things like that, had to start.
Projection and sound engineers from the early part of the 20th century saw the theater business evolve from single-screen auditoriums to theater complexes with multiple screens in the 1970s. It was at this time a lot of the grand theaters like the Gym and the Carolina began to fall into disrepair and eventually closed down.
They were getting around to where they were spending more money on something that all that colossal sound outside of the volume of it and stuff like that. So much of the pictures, average picture show, doesn't, a damn telephone line could carry all the quality they need.
Yeah.
Because mostly voice, a few shotguns and things like that.
What did Ralph have to say about the old Carolina when you were working there?
He'd come in there, and he always talk about how he hated to see this go the way it went, and a lot of comments that I can't repeat in front of a camera. But the setup was definitely different than anything I'd ever seen before. Behind the screen was a full-blown stage. And then 3 stories up were dressing rooms, 3 stories down, underneath, in the basement, were dressing rooms. You'd find all kind of stuff. Elvis, of course, had performed on that stage. I mean, it was a unique theater. To have something of that magnitude, to let it go, there was no sense in that. I mean, that was the place to go. I mean, people dressed up to come downtown to go to a movie at the Carolina.
The 70s were the most difficult time for this theater, but the people that ran the theater for many years made the decision to retain the character of this theater as a single auditorium. When the multiplexes began to open in our area around us and a theater opened at the mall here in town, this theater experienced quite a few changes, and at that time, it was converted to a $1 second-run theater. We began to experience some problems getting the product that we needed because of our low admission price. The only way that the film company would agree to let us open a first-run film was if we had a minimum admission charge of $4 for adults, $2 for children. So we decided that we'd give it a try, see how it went. And as it turned out, that was our biggest grossing picture of that year.
The Gym's projection booth is still set up as a changeover system. Projector number 2, which is the 1936 RCA Brinkert, still operates in its basic reel-to-reel configuration, showing vintage cartoons and previews before the start of each show. The RCA Brinkert projector number 1, however, has been updated with a platter system along with a newer projector head manufactured by the Century Corporation. Have you ever tried running the platter to the Brinkert?
Yes.
It's always set up for that?
Yes, it is set up for that. In the event that we have a problem with the Century projector, we can thread it over to the Brinkert from the platter and run it that way. And we've done that quite a few times. Most customers, if we switch over to the Brinkert, the customers wouldn't know the difference. It certainly is a significant contrast when you're looking at the new technology alongside the old technology. And of course, you know, the impetus for the conversion to digital is more involved in the distribution system than anything else. You know, the fact that digital content can be so much less expensively, number one, produced, and number two, transported than 35 millimeter film. So I think those are the two things that are driving that conversion. You know, it would be nice if we could say it's greatly improves the quality, but the financial model that makes it happen, I think, is the production and distribution and the savings that can be realized there.
Down the street from the Gym Theater in the middle of downtown Kannapolis was Cannon Mills Company. For a period of time, they were the largest manufacturer for household textiles in the world. Employing some 15,000 workers, they produced over 300,000 towels each day. Skilled workers threaded strings of cotton through looms, and the projectionists threaded film through high-tech projection equipment for the entertainment of the mill workers.
We had just moved here from Salisbury in 1940. And I went to the Colonial Theater. And that was fascinating because I knew the guy that was running the picture machines. And he took me up in the booth. And I looked at that equipment and I thought, man, that's really something. Which it was to a kid that was 12 years old. Oh, it fascinated me. How do we get this big picture on that screen?
John began working not only here in the Gym Theater, but also at the Swanee Theater, which was another one of the Cannon Mills theaters. I think when he was in high school, he tells stories about changing the light bulbs in the ceiling and all those kind of things, and went on to establish a career in servicing theater and projectors and sound equipment. And his son, Dennis, still operates that company. The guys like to tell the stories about back in the old days when this theater was owned by Cannon Mills Company. If they needed a gear or a part, they just called over to the machine shop and they fabricated it for them. So that was a little bit different than most setups, but John is still around, and Dennis continues to operate that company and services our equipment here, and will be the supplier of the equipment when we convert over to digital.
You got fired from the gym?
Yeah.
What'd they fire you for?
My brother-in-law opened a theater in competition to him. And Towel City theater operations didn't like that. And so they fired me. So I went to work for my brother-in-law. And that lasted up until about 1950.
And then moving forward to 1990, your company did an update at the gym where you guys replaced Brinkert projector number 1 with a projector from the 60s.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that you left the 1936 RCA Brinkert sound head as part of the configuration.
You could mix and match them.
Yeah?
You just had to have the right gear ratios between the two, between the sound head and projector head. The first sound came out in 1928 on records. And then they figured out how to do it and put it on film. And that's been that way since 1929.
Since sound came after the projector was invented, the projector companies devised a sound reader that attached to the bottom of the projector. This is called a basement reader, or more commonly referred to as the sound head. An analog soundtrack is photographed on the edge of the film by a light that fluctuates to the vibrations of the sound. The sound was first read by a thin line of light focused on the width of the track. It was then projected into a photoelectric cell that output a signal to the sound system created by the track's shadow. Later, it was replaced by a solar cell for high-fidelity stereo. The solar cell was then replaced by an LED light. At that time, 3 different digital audio formats were added, each having its own sound head mounted on top of the projector. These units are called penthouses and can make the top rollers of the projector as high as 8 feet off the ground.
I was in Williamston, North Carolina, servicing theater up there, and I found this thing. And this right here was strictly a silent projector. And of course, Wig Watts owned the theater. So I asked Wig one time I was up there, I said, "What are you gonna do with this old projector?" He said, "What old projector?" I said, "The old projector I found down there on the balcony when I was down there tracing out where the lines were for the stage speakers." He said, "Oh, throw that thing away, it ain't no good." I said, "No, Wig, I'm gonna take it home with me." He said, "What the hell for?" I said, "Well, it's just something to play with." And that was in like 1951, 52.
What you are looking at is a Powers No. 6 projector, circa 1906. Designed by entrepreneur and projector repairman Nicholas Power, it was among the first of American projectors produced on a commercial scale, alongside Thomas Edison's projector. These projectors were extremely popular and incorporated a newer version of the Geneva gear movement, or more commonly known as the intermittent. The Geneva drive is a gear assembly in 2 parts that translates continuous rotation into an intermittent rotation. The rotating drive wheel incorporates a pin and a raised blocking disc in the shape of a half moon. The driven gear is star-shaped with 4 points that have slots. When the pin engages one of the slots, it advances the mechanism by 90 degrees. The blocking disc then locks the gear into place, stopping the rotation. This enables a still frame of film to be shown for a period of time and then advance to the next frame, creating the illusion of continuous motion. These gears are encased inside a sealed cylinder and is its own unit that mounts within the chassis of the projector head. A sprocket is attached to the shaft of the Geneva gear for advancing the film. A standard gear and flywheel are attached on the opposite side so the gears in the projector can turn the movement. The perfection of the Geneva movement in a film projector is one of the greatest engineering achievements in the history of American technology. Modern-day 35mm projectors are computer-controlled, but are still the same basic design as the machines made in the early part of the 20th century. This new Simplex projector is one of the most common machines to be found in cinemas today. Its roots trace back to 1908 in New York City, where 3 men from the motion picture equipment industry teamed up to design the Simplex standard, which would become the most popular 35mm projector in the world. Scottish engineer Francis B. Cannock, along with film editor Edwin Porter and lathe operator Mike Berkowitz, met on a regular basis in the back of O'Keefe's Saloon at 42nd Street and Vanderbilt Avenue. There, they drew sketches of the first Simplex projector on the backs of menu cards and began production in 1910. Cannock, however, was directly responsible for the inner workings of the mechanism being machined within 10,000ths of an inch, ensuring a steady picture on a large screen. In fact, steady enough to make it all the way into the 21st century. A modern-day film has been loaded on the 1906 Powers projector. As the projector is manually advanced, notice the loop at the top gets bigger, while a frame is momentarily shown. The slack is then pulled into the gate to show the next frame. If we look through the lens barrel where the picture is projected onto the screen, We can see the frames advance and stop, advance and stop. This happens 24 times in 1 second. A shutter with 2 blades is added to the projector. Its purpose is to spin in sync with the mechanism, to block the light twice on pull down so the eye doesn't see the frames streak or flicker as they advance.
Most of the projections, it's just a job. I took it serious.
What year did you start working projectors?
Early 70s. Basically what I was in the beginning was a glorified, easy way for a projectionist to make his money that night, because they would sit over there in their chair and read their papers or sleep or whatever, and I had to run the booth. I didn't get paid. Now, it's one thing about the union, when you started out, you started at the bottom, the bare bottom. Now, I did that for 6, 8 months at least.
Oh, not paid?
Yeah, going around to different theaters,
Paying your dues.
paying your dues, and learning the different systems. They sent me to Charlottetown to train. It was a manual, set up, stand up, do it, and go from there. Well, when they first put the platters in over there at Charlottetown, I was going to run late shows because they had late shows on Friday and Saturday night. If you remember the booth, you'd sit over in a chair, and you had 2 over here, and you had 2 over here. The one up there in there closest to the door, the platter decided not to take it up, but it didn't trip the switch. So I had 12,000 feet of film, a little better than 12,000 feet of film, laying in the floor. And we spent hours and hours and hours getting that back up off the floor because it just basically like taking spaghetti and mixed it together. So I had learned one thing, find the end first. And so I'm up there and I'm running it back up onto a makeup table. And this guy comes in and he freaks out. He says, "Oh my God, what's wrong, what's wrong?" I said, "Nothing." "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm cleaning the film. Don't you see this rag in my hand?"
The gym was one of 4 theaters that was owned by Cannon Mills and operated under the name of Towel City Theaters Incorporated. Over the years, as the multiplexes came to town and things began to change, the other theaters, one by one, eventually closed down, with the exception of the gym. We have 916 seats, which is quite unusual for a movie theater nowadays. The gym was the largest of the 4 theaters and probably the most ornate and the nicest facility of those 4.
Well, since everything here is original, does anyone ever ask what the projection booth is like?
Occasionally, very rarely. I mean, as long as the picture's on the screen that they come to see and the quality is good, that's what they care about. There are certainly some people that are curious about the projection booth.
So was this something you were pursuing when you first came here to work?
No, I didn't even know that we could do it. I thought that like an older person did that.
Why would you think an older person would do it? Because it's old technology?
Because it's old and because you don't want a teenager messing around with this kind of stuff.
A buddy of mine who was already a projectionist took me up here and showed me, and from the first time I was fascinated.
How long did it take for you to learn all this up here?
About a month. And then when I got cut loose on my own, I was still very nervous. I always call my buddy on my cell phone, ask him a question real quick when he'd be off. I think this is the most important job at the theater. People come to see the movie. If there wasn't a movie showing behind the concession stand, there'd be no point to sell tickets or concessions.
Does anybody ever ask you what's up here?
Yeah, sometimes when it's really hot, I might leave the door just cracked a little bit. People knock on the door and say, "Well, I just want to take a peek in. I've always wondered what it looks like."
As you well know, the 35 millimeter projector in most of the multiplexes today look nothing, they don't really look like projectors in the way that these do here. When you look at them now, and you look at, particularly when you look at the pictures of them in the past, they look very much like what you might have seen in some Hollywood publication in the 20s and 30s.
How do you feel about digital finally taking over?
You know, I can't say that we're terribly enthusiastic about it. It does offer some advantages. With great reluctance that we abandon showing movies the same way that we have for the past 75 years. But as you know, the customers will not notice a difference.
People come in and say, oh, I thought you guys had digital, and they say no. Or people ask, well, we going to show it in 3D? And I say, well, we have old 35 millimeter projectors here, so we won't have it in 3D. It's people are very surprised.
You've seen a lot of changes.
Oh, I've seen tremendous amount of changes, particularly in theaters and theater equipment and so forth.
What do you think about the projectors going away and going digital?
Well, it's just a sign of the time. I mean, you know, we've got smarter engineers, we've got smarter people running them, and we've got smarter people handling stuff, and so naturally it's going to progress. And if you don't progress and you stand still, you die. That's just that simple.
The plan is to move this entire unit intact. You know, when we're dealing with film and we're dealing with mechanical projectors, I know enough about it that if I can at least diagnose the problem and see where the problem is, in most instances I can fix the problem or at least know how to fix the problem. When we transition over to digital, then that means that for the most part, when my customers are here in the building, if we have a problem, then I'm going to be depending on somebody in New York or California or heaven knows where in the globe to diagnose that problem remotely and try to determine what the remedy to it is. So losing that degree of control is very uncomfortable. Is it too heavy for you?
Maybe. My hand's slipping. It's not heavy, it's slipping.
Well, what, you want a man to come take your place?
Okay.
I messed up one time real bad over at the Viking Twin because you had drive in this way, drive in this way. I'm rewinding stuff and I got confused somehow. And not only did I take the wrong reel from the wrong movie and put it in the other place, but I thought it had been a reel that was supposed to go over here, and I had rewound it. And as it was, not only was it the wrong reel, but it was backwards. I hadn't rewound it. Oh man, you talking about the horns blowing and everything, people yelling and screaming and blowing horns. Yeah, the projectionist life, and I'm sure you can agree to this, is as long as everything's fine, you don't exist. If everything worked great, they don't even realize you're there. It's the most thankless job, if you really get down to it, there ever was. Because when you screw up, first thing they're gonna say is, what idiot have you got up there running this stuff? You got the janitor up there? I mean, and they can get even more colorful than that.
Okay, I want one of you to start stripping that duct tape off the top of the projector where that fan is connected.
I went to work as a popcorn boy. I popped a lot of popcorn. And you could take a quarter and go to the theater and have the movie and the popcorn and a Coke and go home with a nickel in your pocket. Can't do that today. But those kind of things, they took place and you just enjoyed it.
Okay, somebody hand me some electrical tape from one of those things up there.
I don't think the movie business itself will ever be dead. because of two things. One, people still have kids. Two, those people want to get away from them kids. So they go to a movie. It gives them the escape away from day-to-day activity. And, you know, some people will come back at you and say, well, yeah, but they got TV now. That's not escaping. That's not escaping. You're still in the confines of your home.
Carefully unthread the film.
I know at one time it looked like theater business was going to go down the tubes because television came in the late 40s. Well, it didn't. It gave the theater companies a boost because they would advertise the film on television and people would come see it at the theater.
On three. Another herniated disc. One, okay. 2, 3. How far do you go?
Much further.
Oh my God. Woo! You're about to kill me. Oh, I'm getting squished.
Carefully roll it towards me.
Going to a movie is like taking a mini vacation. And, you know, granted, they say movies aren't cheap, but it's still the cheapest vacation you can take.
Whoa.
Stop. Will it turn this way?
Is that dolly gonna fit through that door? Spin it around.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Woo! Got it.
You want me to cut it on? You want the light on?
I can remember a time when you went to a movie because of the clarity. It was so crisp, so clear. Everything about it was just impeccable, you know, compared to coming in home and watching it on your TV. The sad thing is over a period of time, they're more concerned with what it's going to look like when they go to DVD and you're playing it on your big screen TV at home. They've let the quality slip.
Originally, everyone had 2 projectors because you'd show a reel on this projector and then switch over.
The first projector was here for 75 years. How long is the new projector going to be here?
Probably not 75 years. I expect the shelf life to be much, much lower. Certainly as technology progresses, I suspect that the next generation that goes in will probably be much less expensive as well. You can see some improvement in the quality of the picture. After a movie has run for a number of times, I could see scratches or dirt that had accumulated on the film. With the digital system, you know, the 100th time you show the movie, it's going to be just as crisp and clear and pristine as it would be the first time you show the movie.
So Steve, what's the first digital feature going to be here at the gym?
Dr. Seuss's The Lorax.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That should be our first digital movie.
Are you going to advertise that it's digital?
Probably not, simply because no one would be able to tell any difference.
Maybe not so different to the average customer watching a movie, but as John Shaver watches his son Dennis performing calibrations by way of a laptop, it is clear that a new generation of projection technology has begun.
That's what I said. They're making me obsolete totally.
Very few people notice any difference at all, and that makes us happy. That's the way we wanted it to be. We went to a lot of extra effort with the cooperation of the shavers that installed our equipment to make sure that we continued to dim the footlights and open the curtains and begin the show the way that we have for many, many years. So very few of our customers know that there's any difference at all.
If you can change the bulb in the old one, you would really appreciate this one.
I still haven't learned how to change the bulb in the 35 millimeter.
Oh, you can
Oh, I've changed the bulb, but it's never operated very well afterwards. It's the fine tuning piece of it that gives me difficulty.
The fine tuning piece is what
It's the most important
part.
Right.
We'll be ready to fire this thing up in about an hour.
All of the savings that are realized from not having to produce those expensive 35 millimeter print are realized by the film studios. So the film studios certainly pushed for the digital conversion. The exhibitors, the people showing the movies, were in no hurry at all because they realized no savings and huge expense. The distributors realized huge savings and no expense. So it took this long to reach an agreement between those two parties to figure out a method to make that fair. So, I mean, they've come up with a pretty equitable plan so that that most of the theaters will be able to recoup all but about $8,000 to $10,000 of their $100,000 investment per auditorium.
Over the past century, the technological aspects of the cinema have been ever evolving. Out of several different processes and experimentations in the 1950s, we basically have two picture formats that are supported in a normal modern-day theater. Let's begin by looking at a strip of 35 millimeter film from the 1940s. Up close, we can see there are 4 sprocket perforations that make up the height of each frame. This is called the Academy format, with a framing aspect ratio of 1:37:1. During the widescreen craze of the 1950s, 70 millimeter was introduced. Twice the width of 35 millimeter, it had 5 sprocket perforations between each frame line, with an aspect ratio of 2:28:1. Anamorphic lenses were then used to squeeze a wide picture horizontally into a frame that is 4 perforations in height on 35 millimeter film. The same type of lens was then used in projection to reverse the compression, restoring the frame to its true aspect ratio of 2:35:1. This was referred to as cinemascope, and today is simply called scope. Then a widescreen version that did not require special equipment or lenses became available. Regular 35 millimeter 4-perf film was used, but with the top and bottom of the frame cropped by about 1 sprocket perforation, creating a wider frame at an aspect ratio of 1:85:1. This format is called flat. Whether it's film or digital, flat and scope are the 2 primary formats presented in theaters today. And then there is IMAX.
So everything's big with IMAX. The projector's big. It weighs almost 2 tons. And it's on an elevator. It goes up 3 stories.
You can't do a digital picture as big as we do at this theater and it not pixelate. That's just sort of a limitation of the digital technology right now. So the IMAX setups like what we have that still uses IMAX film, 70 millimeter film, that's really the only way you're going to get a picture as big as we do it and have it still look good on a screen that size.
Even though most people are unable to decipher the difference between digital and 35 millimeter film presentations, with IMAX, there is a very distinct difference. Motion picture film is generally shot and projected vertically, but 70 millimeter IMAX film is shot and projected horizontally, creating a larger frame. This allows for a frame size of 15 sprocket perforations wide. That is close to 3 inches in width and nearly 2 inches in height, and has an aspect ratio of 1:43:1. That means a frame of 35mm film in a flat format is able to fit into a frame of 70mm IMAX nearly 12 times, making it the largest motion picture format in the world.
Our dome is 79 feet in diameter, 3 stories high, 13,000 watts of sound. And then you put the 15K lamp to that. It's pretty impressive.
There's a lot of safety precautions that goes into doing our job that you wouldn't think that something, it's just running a movie. Well, it's more than that. This is a 15,000 watt short arc xenon lamp, which just means that instead of having, say, a filament like you would have in a conventional light bulb, you actually have a point of arc where a spark goes between the 2 points. That being said, it's a pressurized gas lamp, so it works along the same principles of like a neon lamp. When you heat up the gas, that is actually what produces the light.
It is crystal clear, it is huge, it is big. I don't think digital has quite caught up with that. It is impressive, but it is an IMAX.
Not too many people got an old projector like that around. Not even theater people.
You said the guy who had this wanted to throw it away.
Yeah, with what? I said, no, we're not gonna throw that away with.
There is a lot of 35mm projection equipment out there that's probably going to the dump. There's a certain piece of me that wants to keep at least one of those projectors connected and up and running, just in case we want to show a 35mm print at some point.
For over 100 years, this trade has been passed down through the generations. And for the first time in history, celluloid ceases to be the prevailing format in theater projection.
When we were showing 35mm films, we had to have a projectionist up there, and they manually opened the curtains and closed the curtains and manually turned the lights on and off and threaded the projector and started the movie and all of those things, and those jobs have gone away. A lot of our employees expressed some remorse that the 35mm projectors were going away, because that's what they have trained on. That's what they know how to operate. They, certainly being of a younger generation, immediately took to this new equipment. They are comfortable with the computer aspect of it. These are things that they have grown up with. So they are very comfortable with it.
When I was a kid going to see Western, 1,000-foot reels, everything was 1,000-foot reels. 4 big reels, 1,000-foot reels. Then when they got to shipping and except from comedies and everything, the features all started on the 15-inch reels, And then, they change over. We had some operators that they could change over and you couldn't tell it to save your neck. These two old fellas in Spartanburg, they were the best operators at that. You sit in there and watch it. Damn, they could get them. Of course, I could see the changeover marks, and something like that. But I got to get from one to another.
Now, with the digital projector, the movies actually come from the movie companies on a hard drive, and all we do is we'll hook the hard drive up to the digital projector either via USB port or by just plugging it in and hit upload on the monitor, and within 45 minutes, usually a movie's on the projector. We load a key, also sent by the movie company, and the movie's ready to play.
You caught the tail end of the film projection era, and in addition to that, you got to switch reels, which is something most theaters haven't done in a long time. What was that like for you?
It was a blast. It was, you definitely had to make sure you were paying attention, but it was almost a sense of power, because you knew that if you did it the way you were supposed to do it, then nobody would hardly know that it was two different projectors. But if you messed up, everybody's going to know, and you've got the boss calling up and getting on you for that. But it was really cool.
They were a mean machine. It was quite interesting to see all that stuff back then.
I bet money the presentations were better as well.
No scratch prints, no loss of sound. Oh man, if you missed a changeover, you got the riot act. I mean, this was back when people were really, when they came to the theater, they had coats and ties on. That's how it was back then.
We're a rare breed. Whereas you and I could tell the difference between a digital, a CinemaScope, flat, 70 millimeter, what kind of sound, whether it's magnetic or optic or Dolby Digital or, true digital, okay? We're a rare breed, bottom line, okay? And if you take our whole breed and put them together, you wouldn't even fill up the cargo hold of a cruise ship. I mean, people don't care. All people are really interested in, and there's nothing bad about it, don't get me wrong, is going to a movie, paying their $25 for their popcorn and drink, okay? And sitting down and enjoying a movie.
Coming to the movies is an experience that cannot be duplicated at home. There are not too many home theaters that have a screen 24 feet by 36 feet. There are no barking dogs, no ringing telephones, none of the distractions that you experience at home, not to mention the fact that you can't make popcorn like we have at home. And that's why people come to the movies. It is an escape, it is to relax and to be entertained, and that's an experience that I think you can only get at a movie theater.
Now, 70 millimeter should, in all respects, give you a wider range to work with and whatnot. But the average person goes to the picture show. Unless they're a musician, they can appreciate an extended range or something. I'm talking about the average person wouldn't know 70 millimeters from ordinary stuff. 3D, that was a marvelous picture of handled right. But the very minute they thought they could do it in a 10-cent store or something, that's when they played hell with that. Mm-hmm. And not only that, did they ruin all the film, because all you have to do is have a few breaks and get that out of sync, and you just play the devil. Good operators are scarce, always have been.
Always.
See, a good operator and the sound man have a lot in common. They can give you a lot of trouble, or they can do a fairly good job. I'd like to know who screwed up those sound lenses and stuff out there.
Festival?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know who did it?
No.
I know who did it.
In times past, they'd have fired his ass. I said, now you tell me how this damn lens got moved. It's tight as hell. You got to loosen that screw before you can move that lens. If you don't know anything else, you do not tackle things you know nothing about.